He is Dr. Mustafa Barghouti, and he joins us now for the first time, I think, on the mother of all talk shows. Dr. Mustafa, marvelous to see you again. Just summarize first, did all this take you by surprise? There's been an attrition against the Palestinian people for many, many decades. But it's a long time since the Old Testament was brought out, and the absolute extermination of your people was openly stated as an objective tonight by Netanyahu on television.
Well, the answer to your question, George, and it's good to be with you. The answer is that yes and no, actually. Yes, from the perspective that I knew very well that what is Israeli plan about. We knew that this Israeli government with people like Smotrich and Ben-Gvir and Netanyahu has only one plan, which is the total extermination of the Palestinian people and the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians from all of Palestine. And that's what Smotrich said several times. He said very clearly that Israel will fill the West Bank with settlers and settlements so that Palestinians would lose any hope of a state of their own. And then we will have to choose between immigration, which is ethnic cleansing, or accepting a life of subjugation to Israelis, which is apartheid, or die, as he said, which is genocide. And I think what we witness today is the Israeli solution to the biggest problem the Zionist movement has faced, which is that, you know, the Zionist movement is built on two columns. One is taking the land by force, which they did. And the second one is to get rid of the Palestinians, which they couldn't finish. And to their greatest surprise, regardless of the fact that there are 7 million Palestinians as refugees, the number of Palestinians on the land of Palestine has become even bigger than the number of Israeli Jewish people. So what you see today in Gaza is the implementation of that plan of solving the demographic problem by ethnic cleansing. They will start with Gaza. They are already starting in Area C in the West Bank, which is 60%. Already 21 communities have been evicted by Israeli settlers' terror. And the ultimate goal is eviction of everybody from West Bank and from Gaza. What surprised us, and that is the no aspect in response to your question, is that I never thought that the world community, including the Western governments that all the time speak about democracy and human rights, will be so, many of them will be even participating in an act of ethnic cleansing in the 21st century. And that's exactly what's happening by the British government and the United States government. Not only they are complicit with war crimes, they are participating in them. And that of course, is absolutely shocking. Even when they watch a situation where Palestinian children are slaughtered around the clock, to the level that Save the Children has just issued a statement saying that the number of Palestinian children killed in 3 weeks by Israel is greater than the numbers of all children killed all over the world in all the wars in the last 3 years, including the war in Ukraine. Of course, I don't want to go into explaining the double standard here when you compare Ukraine and Palestine. I think everybody knows that. But it is really shocking that all these governments that speak about democracy and human rights are complicit in an act of ethnic cleansing and barbaric genocide against the Palestinian civilian population now in Gaza.
It is the ultimate in asymmetry, isn't it? There are 7 million Palestinians, and there are more Palestinians than Israelis on the territory of what was once all of Palestine, from the famous river to the famous sea. But the Israeli side has the world's most powerful countries on its side. And whilst nominally the Palestinian people have the support of most countries in the world, none of them are either ready or apparently able to come to the aid of the Palestinian people. And thus we have this grotesque spectacle of the Eastern Mediterranean chock full of Western warships, whilst oil is going from Azerbaijan across Turkey into Israel uninterrupted, whilst the Turkish people are out in their millions in solidarity with you. It's particularly hard to swallow all that, isn't it?
Of course. And more than that, I was just speaking on another network a few minutes ago, and I said that if Israel is not allowing a drop of fuel to Gaza, the Arab countries must send a message to the United States that as long as not a single drop of fuel goes to Gaza, not a single drop of oil will come from us to you, the United States. This would have been an honorable position, and that's the least they could do. We're not asking, before we talk about Turkey, let's talk about Arab countries. We're not asking Arab countries to send armies to fight Israel. We know this is not only unrealistic, but it's impossible. But we are asking them at least to do two things. First of all, to establish a convoy and maybe invite other internationals and international organization and challenge the Israeli siege on Gaza, because Rafah is a crossing with Egypt. It's not with Israel. And challenge them and let Israel do what they want. I mean, this would be, and say we will send the humanitarian aid to Palestinians, because all we've got so far is 100 trucks, while the real need is 1,200 trucks of everything, and not a single drop of fuel. And the other thing would be to say to the world and to the Western countries, you will not get Arab oil as long as Palestinians are besieged in Gaza and as long as you are conducting this terrible war on the people. You are absolutely right, George, because you are describing a discrepancy between people's positions and government's positions. And that's, I'm not pessimistic. I think the public pressure will make a difference eventually. And that's why we should sustain and enhance and increase this public pressure. And the atrocity in this case and the injustice is not new. We all remember what happened to the people of Algeria when they struggled against the French colonialism, how much Vietnam suffered to be free from the American aggression. It's a long story of struggle of people against colonialism. And what we do now is nothing different from all these wonderful struggles of people who eventually got their freedom. And I am sure we will get our freedom, whatever the cost is. There is no way we can give up or accept a life of subjugation to Israeli enslavement and apartheid.
The West Bank, which is not Hamas, of course, is, as you described, in the grip now of the very same ethnic cleansing. While the world is fixated on Gaza, whole villages of Palestinians are closing down and their people being forced to leave by violent settler activity. We call them settlers. They came usually from Brooklyn and Russia and elsewhere. They are heavily armed. They kill whom they want under the noses of the official occupation army. And this includes the holy places, of course. Ethnic cleansing in Jerusalem, the blockade of Bethlehem. These are places, if you want to talk about the Bible, that shine brightly in the Bible. Why are the Christian leaders in the world so silent about what's happening in their own holy land?
Many of them are not. I think the Pope has just issued a declaration demanding immediate ceasefire. Many church leaders in different countries of the world are taking the right stand, but the Christian governors and the presidents and prime ministers are the problem. And of course here, the persecution is affecting not only the Muslim Palestinians, but also the Christian Palestinians. A very good proof to that is what happened to the oldest third church in the world in Gaza, which was bombarded, killing many, many Palestinians there. Before this whole thing started, people don't, I mean, it's so stupid that some journalists and some media people talk about the situation as if history here started on the 7th of October. But let me tell you not about what happened since 48 or 67. And as Guterres said, this is 56 years of Israeli occupation. But let's talk about what happened the last 8 months of this year. During the last 8 months, before the war broke out in Gaza, Israeli army and settlers killed 248 Palestinians in the West Bank, including 40 children. During these 8 months, the Israeli army allowed attacks on the Aqsa Mosque and trying to change its nature. They allowed attacks on churches in Jerusalem. The Christian clerics were spit at by Israeli extremists. Even tourists who came from other countries who went to the Holy Sepulchre Church were also exposed to Israeli violence. And on top of that, Israel was sending one message: we will end the Palestinian issue through normalization with the Arab countries. And one thing that the whole world overlooked, purposefully I guess, is that Netanyahu just a few weeks before this war started went to the United Nations in the General Assembly and showed the world the map of the new Middle East, painting all the Arab countries he wants to normalize with or allies with in green, and then in the heart, the state of Israel in blue, and the state of Israel includes the annexation of all of the West Bank, the annexation of the Golan Syrian Heights, and the annexation of Gaza Strip. That was the map he showed to the world. And this, all of this provoked, of course, the reaction from the Palestinian side. It didn't come just out of nothing. And that's why I think it is so important now to remind everybody that the people of Palestine have been subject to apartheid, to ethnic cleansing, to occupation, the longest occupation in modern history. And they have the right to resist. They have the right by international law to resist the occupation and to resist injustice.
Dr. Mustafa, we were both young men when we first met. Now we're not so young, but we're still struggling. God willing, we'll win in the end. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.